What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and today I'm going to be taking a quick look at Galacide by Puny Human. This is a side-scrolling shooter mixed with a match 3 game. Now those are both genres I quite like, so this is a really interesting title. And before getting into it, I'll have a look at the options menu. We've got music and sound on separate sliders, as well as a master slider, so that's great to see. Under graphics, got resolution options, and then advanced graphics. Got a whole host of things. We've got resolution scaling, VSync, AA, post-processing, shadows, textures, effects, details, and material levels. Of those, the one thing I will pick out, though, is AA. There's a lot of AA options, and it doesn't really tell you what they actually are to any great extent. So the fact that there are so many AA options, I suspect kind of means there's probably more than one type of AA in there, so you don't really know what you're getting with that, which I think would be nice to have that a little better defined. But on the whole, it's a lot more options than most shooters would give you, or most match 3 games would give you, so yeah, kudos to them for that. That's pretty well fleshed out as far as things go. And then down here we've got controller vibration under miscellaneous, as well as actual rebindable controls on the gamepad. Well, to a certain extent. You can't rebind the directions. Not that I could imagine you'd want to, but you can't. The control, the like shoot and drop and specials, the actual abilities, they're rebindable. So that's halfway there, I suppose. I guess that's something. So let's get on into the game. Let's have a look at things. We have a variety of things in this kind of star map, as it were. These are basically the core levels here. Then over here, after you've beaten the 3rd level, you also unlock this endless play mode. There is also available at all times, or available right from the off, this kind of puzzle mode, which basically does away with most of the shooting to any great extent, and just, in fact, it does do away with the shooting. Your shooting is turned off, and it just turns it into kind of a puzzle match 3 kind of thing. We'll have a look at some of the levels. I will go into Crystal Mine, because it's a reasonably interesting level, so going on normal. Got a choice of ships. I only have the 2 at the moment. In the early access build, I did manage to unlock the 3rd, but since the game has launched, I haven't actually managed to get that one unlocked again. I'm not quite sure what the criteria are. Reach threat level 16 endless play. Okay, I guess that explains the criteria. If you hover over them, it does tell you what they are, so there we go. I know what I'm doing now. So we've got 2 different ships. This is your basic standard ship. It shoots things, it collects blocks, and you use those blocks to match 3. This one is less effective at shooting, it's pretty tanky, has a lot of health, and it can hold multiple blocks, so you can sort of store up blocks to match 3 with. So a bit more strategic, bit more adept at actually doing the puzzle side of things rather than the actual fighting side of things. And then this one is like a light. The 3rd one, from what I've seen of it in the early access build, it's kind of got like a limited stealth kind of thing to hide from enemies, as well as building like a kind of a sentry gun kind of deal. And its main advantage is it is fast and powerful, but doesn't have a lot of health. So we'll go with the mining ship. It is the standard, so we shall ready up. So, Galacide. We scroll sideways, and we may shoot. And then when we shoot things, they will drop scrap. These little orbs are scrap. I don't need them right now, so you can press B to drop it. If you're holding them, you kind of don't do much with them. You can throw it forward, but you can't fire your gun whilst you're holding scrap. So you do kind of want to avoid picking up scrap unless you actually want it. Or if you're playing the freighter, you can press X to store it at any time. In lieu of being able to store it, this ability has an ability where it can kind of suck in the scrap. So if there's something that you can't quite reach, you can just kind of draw it towards you. It only draws it sort of left across the screen towards you. So if you have gone past the item, you can't do that. So as we progress through a level, you will see there are a number of blocks coming in from the left, from the right even. I know my directions. And these scrap that we've been getting from the enemies, we're going to need to use them. So if we pick them up, we can fire it with the same button that presses fire. It just replaces fire. You just fire it instead of your weapon, and you can build them and you match them. And if you don't match them, they're going to get in your way really quickly. And it's going to hurt because you're going to get crushed against the wall on the left-hand side of the screen. So I've got purple down there, I can match that. So you're kind of looking, there's a group of 4 there and a group of 5 there, so you can link those and make a big match. So it's weird because it's kind of using 2 entirely different kind of gaming skills, but for some reason it kind of works. It kind of flows together surprisingly well. So you're kind of focusing on enemies and bullets and things, And at the same time, you're constantly aware of your surroundings, and you're like, I need to be making progress through this level in order to actually, you know, not just die because there's a giant impending wall of death. It's a really interesting kind of game dynamic to it. Now, there's a few power-ups you'll have seen me pick up there. The purple one just kind of makes you like fire much faster and move much faster. It's sort of powerful upgrade. It makes you more powerful, basically. The green, if we get any greens, what am I doing with this scrap? That scrap is going to be no use to me. There we go. Yeah, the green upgrades, the green or teal, cyan, whatever the heck color it is. Those are healing. That's a really bad place to stand. If you can get, what other ones are there? There's the yellow ones are basically XP. You can see the XP meter in the bottom left-hand corner. That will kind of slowly deplete over time. You'll get XP for matching things as well as for killing enemies. So if you do either of those, it'll fill the meter up, and you'll get better guns. So that giant beam weapon, there we go. That's leveled up. So I've got a giant beam weapon now, but that'll slowly deplete over time. And if I don't keep it playing, well, it'll disappear after a while. And you can kind of keep it topped up a little bit, but it's gonna deplete fairly fast. It'll run out sooner or later. So you're just kind of gonna make the most of it and clear things out. The yellow XP boosts kind of actually fill the meter up quite a way, so you'll usually level up your weapon much faster if you pick up those. You've got to keep an eye out for those. And the power-ups drop from the respective colors. So if you match the green blocks, you'll get the green power-up, you get some healing. If you match the yellow ones, you'll get the XP boost. If you match the purple ones, you will actually see the attack power one. This is one of those games that I feel like I'm doing really badly, because it's one of those games that I kind of need to focus on what I'm doing, because there's quite a lot going on. I've not found it challenging, but all of a sudden I kind of feel like I'm making a lot of mistakes that I wasn't before. Yeah, I'm dead. So when you respawn, you carve out a large chunk of the level just to give you a bit of space to breathe, particularly if you know, have been crushed by an impending wall like this. So this bit of the game is slightly different to the others in that it's kind of almost... It's a structured kind of puzzle bit. So you can see there's a distinct pattern to all the objects in the level now, so you kind of got to break your way through the pattern, basically. It's kind of an interesting... It just changes the dynamic up a bit, so just to keep things from getting monotonous. There's a few different sections to the levels. You've got these kind of puzzle bits, you've got the more randomized elements that you've already seen. And there's just occasional bits where you're just doing the side-scrolling shooter bits. I want that yellow one up there. So, can I grab that green? Don't know why I wanted rid of that. Let's grab... No. That one? No! Uh-oh. This is not going to go well. Give me the green! There we go, I need that. Yellow. This bit gets a bit frantic because you need very specific colours to get through it. The pink ones are just an explosive, it'll just blast a chunk out of the level, so they're fun. There's also a fairly advanced technique. I'll see if I can do it here. Yeah. If you point blank one right next to something, it kind of converts the block that you're point blanking into the color that you're holding, so that you can use that to link. And your ship, for the purposes of that particular maneuver, your ship will also be considered a block of whatever color it is. So if I were to place that there, that essentially kind of links those in a sort of 4 formation and removes them from play. So you can use that as a slightly more advanced technique. At first, you don't kind of realize quite how often you need that, but then as soon as I started doing it, it's like, oh, this comes in handy really quite frequently. There's a lot of nice maneuvers you can do with that. So I kind of link those together. So there's some really interesting dynamics going on this. I think it's quite an intriguing little title. So I can link those to make a match there. Going to convert that one, so that's going to link to those sideways. And we're kind of running out of territory here. So I can link those and get a chunk there. And your combo doesn't seem to be based on kills. The kills would kind of feel like the obvious choice to have, but the combo actually does seem to be based predominantly on the matches. So if you can match things frequently and quickly and just generally stay on top of keeping things well matched throughout, that's how you're going to get the high scores, if high scores are such a thing that you care about. It's always nice to be on a high score board. Alright, so I think there may be a boss fight coming up. Oh no, we've got another little bit. I've got a section that doesn't seem to require any matching, it just seems to have you against a bunch of turrets, whereas again is just like another entirely different section of the game. So you need to take out all the turrets in order to progress through that. If you fly to the right hand side of the screen, you'll sort of get this kind of warp drive thing. And the warp drive thing will also, using the warp drive to speed through the level will also fill up your XP meter a bit as well. Okay, so of the 2 boss fights I've seen so far in the game, one of them is just kind of a fairly standard bullet hell shooter thing. It shoots a lot of bullets and you must dodge them. This one is by far the more interesting of the 2 bosses, because as you can see, it's got, ouch, that was nasty, it's got a health meter at the top, and my bullets are doing nothing to it, but it's got a big old mouth that you can throw those orbs into, and when you match them, inside of it, it explodes. So the first boss, as I say, was just kind of a bullet hell shooter thing, which, given the nature of the game, was, I'll be honest, that's a little bit disappointing. I kind of hoped it would be more interesting than that, and it just kind of, wasn't. So this boss kind of makes up for that a little bit. I have no idea what the other bosses in the game are like. The early access build only actually included the first 3 levels, so I've not seen any further than this. If there are a lot of bosses that use interesting mechanics like this, I will be very happy, because the bosses that manage to utilize these really interesting mechanics are really, really super cool. So just one that's like, oh, it shoots a lot of bullets and you've got to dodge the bullets. That's a little bland. I've done that many, many times before, so it would have been nice to have seen all the bosses have some really cool and unique stuff, and that unfortunately was not actually the case. There we go. A drone is attempting to start a new colony. Apparently. We're going to go in and stop it. End of the level. There we go. That is a 1 level on normal mode. So obviously your replayability, I mean, you saw there's only 6 levels in the game, so arguably one could say there's not a lot of content. I think the majority of your replayability is going to come from going back and doing it in a different ship and doing it on harder difficulties. Each of the levels has got 3 difficulties. The hard levels I've been okay at doing, but not great. I haven't touched Expert. I don't think I would do very well at Expert, to be honest. But there you go. I think you basically take more damage and it moves faster. Yeah, it says it's got faster scrolling speeds, so you got to think faster about doing the puzzle matching thing whilst also shooting everything. So a lot more to think about in those modes. And then you can go back and do it with the more ships, with the extra ships as well. So you got a few options for replayability, as well as, you know, trying to set some high scores, which is always cool. And then, oh, of course, we've got puzzle play over here. We'll have a look at some of these. I have not made much progress through them here. I had done a bunch of them in the early access build. I imagine they will be much alike. So basically, they're going to give you a bunch of things, and you must try and figure out how to clear all the blocks off the board. So it will give you all the tools to clear it, and if you do it wrong, you won't be able to clear it, basically. Okay, next level. That was an easy one. That was the first level. So this one requires us to think things through a little bit more. I guess what we can do is put that there. Put a blue on there. A green on there. Just some building blocks. Some structure to attach things to. Then we can do that. And then we can do that. So if you fire a little bit too quick, it will stick to things before they've disappeared. So you kind of got to hold fire on making your moves occasionally. So that's that. Then there's a few different sort of categories of puzzle. That's just your basic matching things. Then there's linking turrets is one I had a look at before, which is one of those sections we saw kind of at the end of that last one. It's if I were to link and destroy that using the advanced mechanics, basically that turret is now going to link up with that one. These particular turrets can alter themselves. I go in here. I guess that works. Yeah. And then that one removes that. So these ones are more just sort of just careful planning and maneuvering, I think, involved with this one. Otherwise, you end up sort of blocking yourself. So there's a little bit of variety in there. This kind of feels... It doesn't feel like this is the meat of the game. There's as you can see, there's a few of them in there. There's a good few puzzles available for you to work your way through. Not loads, but they're there if you want a bit of puzzling action. It's clearly not what the game is all about. It's basically throwing away half of the game for the sake of making basically some simple match 3 kind of puzzles. It's not the most compelling thing in the world, but it's a little bit of extra content if you wanted it. Honestly, I would have, more actual just levels, I think, would have been what I would like to see. 6 levels just doesn't seem like a lot. I think if all you're going to do is burn through the story levels and then say, yep, story done, I don't think you're going to find a lot of content in there. I think the game's value comes in... The game's value would only really come from its replay value. So if you're going to go back and replay it a bunch of times, I think you could find it particularly interesting. If you're going to get to the end of the story and say, I'm done, you might not necessarily find it the best value for money. It's not a terribly expensive game, mind you. We're looking at £6.99 in your regional equivalent, but I think that ultimately you're looking at, just to straight up finish the story, you're probably looking at a couple of hours worth of gameplay. Maybe not even that, to be honest. So if you think you're going to come back and play this because it's an interesting concept, and don't get me wrong, it is an interesting concept, then you might get your money's worth. But if you're the sort of person who just wants to get to the last level and beat the last level, you might find yourself a little bit shortchanged with this. But it's definitely a very interesting concept. As I say, I've said that several times now. I think mixing those two genres is not something I've seen ever before. It's very, very strong on the originality scale, I would say. It's got a lot of that going for it. And it's cool. It's very unique, and I've enjoyed it. I am enjoying it. But how much it might have, how much replayability, how much you could get out of it in the long run, I don't know. I think that's going to vary on a person-by-person basis. I suppose that's up to you to make your decision accordingly. But I'm quite happy to recommend this. I'm definitely always interested to see something novel, people mixing genres in new and interesting ways, and this definitely does that. So that is Galacide by Puny Human. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Meroka, and I will see you next time.